Well, today we are going to discuss the application of the standard normal distribution in the sampling distribution for the difference between two sample means. To understand this, let us take an example. The example is the daily sale of Haber-Shinwari tikka and Chersi tikka is normally distributed with mean 15 and 13 lakhs with standard deviation of 4 and 3 lakh. A sample of 16 days sales for both restaurants is taken at random. What is the probability that the difference between the average sales for 16 days is less than 2 lakh, less than 3.5 lakh, greater than 1.5 lakh, greater than 4 lakh, in between 2 and 3 lakh, in between 0.7 and 0.9 lakh. So, to solve this, we will use the fifth property of the sample distribution for the difference between two sample means. And first of all, we need to convert this less than 2 lakh to mathematical form. So, what is x 1 bar? This is the average sales of Haber-Shinwari restaurants for 16 days, and this is the average sales of Chersi tikka restaurants for 16 days. And the difference between the two is less than 2 lakh. Okay, the minimum limit is not given. How much less it is not given. So, that is why it will be written as minus infinity. Similarly, it can also be written in the same way. X 1 bar minus x 2 bar is less than 3.5 lakh. The minimum limit is not given. So, it will be minus infinity. Greater than 1.5 lakh, it means that the difference between x 1 bar minus x 2 bar will be greater than 1.5 lakh. The maximum limit is not given, so the maximum limit will be plus infinity. Similarly, the maximum limit will be plus infinity over here as well. And in between 2 and 3 lakh, the difference between the average sales in the two restaurants for 16 days is not less than 2 lakh and not greater than 3 lakhs. Similarly, the average sale difference for the two restaurants for 16 days would not be less than 0.7 lakh and not greater than 0.9 lakh. So, we have to find out these probabilities. To find out these probabilities, we need to standardize it first, and to standardize these probabilities, we make use of the standard normal distribution. The standard normal distribution is given by this equation. C is equal to x 1 bar minus x 2 bar minus mu x 1 bar minus x 2 bar divided by sigma x 1 bar minus x 2 bar. What is mu x 1 bar minus x 2 bar? This is mean of the sampling distribution for the difference between two sample means. This is variance of standard deviation of the sampling distribution for the difference between two sample means. So, we need to quantify this and this. How can we quantify this? We have to use the first property of the sampling distribution for the difference between mean, and for this we have to use the second property. So, what are the first and second properties? They are given by this equation. From property first, mean of the sampling distribution for the difference between two sample mean is equal to the difference between two population mean, and this is the first population mean, this is the second population mean. The first population mean shows the true average sales of Haber-Shinwari restaurants, which is 15 lakh, and mu 2 shows the true average sale of Haber-Chersi tikka, which is 13 lakh, and the difference between the two is equal to 2 lakh. So, this value is calculated, this is equal to 2. Now, we have to calculate this value, and for this value the formula is sigma 1 divided by n 1 plus sigma 2 divided by n 2 under root. Sigma 1 is the standard deviation in the sales of Haber-Shinwari restaurant, and sigma 2 is the standard deviation which is equal to 3 lakh in the sales of Chersi tikka restaurant, and n 1 and n 2 both are equal to 16 days, because we have chosen 16 days sales for each and every restaurant. So, if we calculate this value, this is equal to 1.75. So, this value has also been calculated and its value is 1.75. Now, we can use this equation, this standardization to quantify these probabilities. How can we do that? Let us see it. Starting from the first part is probability that the difference between the average sales for the two restaurants for 16 days is less than 2 lakh. How can we standardize it? We put z for x1 bar minus x2 bar. So, we put it, and this is the minimum limit, and you can see this is the maximum limit. So, this is the greater side and this is the less side. In the greater side, you put the maximum limit, which is 2, and the less side you put the minimum limit, which is equal to minus infinity, and minus 2 and 1.75 are constant in both sides. So, if we calculate it, we get minus infinity, and if we calculate this, we get 0. So, ultimately we get these values, minus infinity and 0. And if we sketch the diagram, 0, plus infinity and minus infinity, and we need the area between 0 and minus infinity. So, we need area between this point and this point, this shaded area we need. So, how can we quantify it? From the basic theory of standard normal distribution, this area is half standard deviation, or you can call it 50% probability, or you can call it half area under the curve, which is equal to 0.5. So, we do not need to see any table for this area, rather we can directly put 0.5 for this area, because this area is 50% of the entire standard normal distribution. So, the answer is equal to 0.5, or this is equal to 50%. So, it means that there is 50% chance that the difference between the average sales for the two restaurants for 16 days will be less than 2, its chance is 50%. So, we are done with the first part. Turn to the second part. The second part is probability that the difference between the average sales of the two restaurants for 16 days will be less than 3.5. Again, repeating the same process, we have to put the maximum limit and the minimum limit. This is the maximum limit, because between minus infinity and 3.5, 3.5 is greater than minus infinity. So, that is why this is the maximum limit, this is the maximum limit, and this is the minimum limit. All right. So, minimum limit minus 2 divided by 1.75, or maximum limit minus 2 divided by 1.75. The left hand side, that is this area, is directly equal to minus infinity, because if we add or subtract anything to the minus infinity or plus infinity, it remains infinity. So, this is minus infinity, this is z, and this is 1.5 divided by 2. If we calculate it, this is equal to 0.85. Okay. So, we need the area between minus infinity and 0.85. So, if you sketch the diagram, this is the 0 area, this is minus infinity, and this is plus infinity. So, this area is greater than half, because we need the area between minus infinity and 0.85. This is 0, this is plus infinity, and this is minus infinity. From 0 to minus infinity, this is half area, which is equal to 0.5. But we need the area between minus infinity and 0.85, which is greater than half. So, we have to choose half area, that is from 0 to minus infinity, and we should add the area between 0 and 0.85. So, how can we add these two areas so as to get the total shaded area? This can be calculated by 0 is greater than z is greater than minus infinity, plus 0 is less than z and less than 0.85, because between 0 and minus infinity, 0 is greater, and between 0 and 0.85, 0.85 is greater. This for this area, the total probability is equal to 0.5, and we have to see 0.8 below 0.05 in the table. So, this area is 0.5, and if we use the table and see and search 0.8 below 0.05, its value is 0.3023. How? Look at it. Look at it. You should choose 0.8 from the first column. This is 0.8 value, 0.8, and the first column is 0, the second column is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So, you should choose 0.8 below 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is equal to 0.3023, that is it. All right. So, if we add these two values, we get 0.80, or if we multiply it by 100, we get 80.23%. So, it means that there is 80% chance that the difference between the average sales for the two restaurants for 16 days will be greater than, will be less than 3.5 lakh, is 80%. Turn to the third part. The third part is find the probability that the difference between the average sales of the two restaurants for 16 days will be greater than 1.5. You can see this is the maximum limit plus infinity, and 1.5 is the minimum limit. So, this is the minimum limit which is on the less side, and this is the maximum limit which is on the greater side. So, if you calculate it, this is equal to minus 0.25 and this is equal to infinity. So, you need the area between minus 0.25 and plus infinity. So, again this area is greater than half. How? You can see this is point, this is half area from 0 to plus infinity, and you need the area between minus 0.28 to plus infinity. So, you have to choose this area. For this you have to choose this area plus the area between 0 and plus infinity, so as to get the total shaded area. So, how can we cover this area? The area from minus 0.25 to 0, minus 0.25 is less than z is less than 0, plus the area between 0 and plus infinity. If you see 0.2 below 0.08, its value is 0.1103 in the same way, and half area is equal to 0.5. If you add the two areas, you get 61% chance. The interpretation is as the same. The next part is you need the probability that the difference between the average sales of the two restaurants for 16 days is in between 2 and 3 lakhs. So, put the minimum limit and put the maximum limit, calculate it, you will get two values. You need the area between 0 and 0.52. Since you know that the minimum limit is 0, the maximum limit is 0.57, you don't need to add or subtract two areas, rather you should directly search 0.5 below 0.07, its value is 0.2157, which is equal to 21.5%. Next part is you need the area between 0.7 and 0.9. This is the minimum limit and this is the maximum limit, which if you put in the standardization, you get two limits which is equal to minus 0.74 and minus 0.7.62. So, this is the minimum limit 0.74 and minus 0.62 is the maximum limit. To choose this shaded area, you should take this total area from 0 to 0.75, but this area is extra, this area. That is why choose this total area and subtract the area between 0 and 0.62, you will be left with the shaded area. So, that is why we took the area between 0 and 0.74, 0 is greater than minus 0.74, minus again 0 is greater than minus 0.62. Table value, you can search this value, this is equal to 0.2704 and this value is 0.2724. The net answer is 0.03.8 or this is equal to 3.8%. This is the answer.